I'm here today with Abraham Lincoln for our post-mortem interview. How are you doing today, Mr. Lincoln?
I'm doing quite well, thank you, Alex.
That's good. Now, Mr. Lincoln, we actually have some questions for you that our listeners have been sending in. Um, and they just wanted to ask you these things while you were live. So, can we get started?
By all means.
Awesome. Okay. Our first question is actually a pretty good one here. Everyone knows a lot about your domestic presidential policies, but what was your policy actually like, the foreign policies?
Foreign policies.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my foreign affairs and the issues that were derived from such affairs, I left to my Secretary of State, William Seward,
Oh, yeah.
For most of my presidency. He did have to be reined in a couple instances, but most of the time he was quite the right man for the job.
Cool. And can you tell me a little bit about William Seward, I think you said?
Seward, yes. He was a well-traveled man. I like to say he had gone on 2 trips, more than most men, and that's because he went on 2 extensive trips to Europe and the Middle East. And he had a sharp wit, well-studied, and quite a bright man, very good for the job. But as I said, he did need to be reined in a couple instances, such as with the Duke of Newcastle. That was quite an issue.
Awesome. Now we've actually been hearing a little gossip about your so-called Trent incident. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The Trent incident was truly embarrassing for the Union. It was horrible. The fact that one of our sea captains would have the audacity to arrest on the high seas foreign diplomats is just infuriating. There were allegations brought up against him later, and the dignitaries were released, of course, but that was just truly embarrassing for us, regardless of the fact that it was a time of war and they were dignitaries to the Confederacy. It's just truly embarrassing.
Now I understand you're a very wise and plan-oriented kind of person. What would you say about your opinion on how it actually turned out? The Trent incident.
The Trent incident.
Mm-hmm.
The Trent incident was not planned. It was an incident that was just on the fly, just in the heat of the moment, and I say it's just disgraceful how it turned out.
Okay. Now on to our next question, Mr. Lincoln. It's actually about your father, because we actually had a lot of curiosity about that. Why did you refuse to actually go see him while he was on his deathbed? He was dying.
Me and my father were never close.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of tension while I was growing up. He was a cruel, not very learned man. He was stuck in that lower sector of society that I wanted to escape from. He was very discouraging to me. So we had that tension, and it never really resolved itself. In fact, I actually left home in my early years as an adult, simply to escape that. And so I found that at the time, I was still a young adult at the time, that it was just too tense and too fresh for me to go and see him. And I thought it was better that we not see each other than to see each other in that moment. So
Yeah, I understand that.
it's embarrassing for me. I've come to regret the decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, on from that, we've actually been getting a lot of questions about your favorite movies. Do you have a tendency to go to theater or anything like that?
What an infuriating question. Well, I was enjoying Our American Cousin until, well,
You were
Yeah.
interrupted. Yeah.
quite rudely. The play really went out with a bang.
Mm-hmm. Very surprised ending there. Well, that's kind of unfortunate.
Truly.
I wanted to ask you about something else. We've actually been getting a lot of different comments, and we had a lot of questions like that. And I won't keep you too long, but we've had a lot of comments on. There's many people saying that you would look better with a beard as a president. What do you think about that?
Ironically, a little girl once wrote me a letter that said exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I started to grow a beard. Now, I'm dead and buried, and so the beard's gone, but while I was president, I took her advice and grew a beard. So that was the whole story behind that. I didn't even think of such a thing until I was running for the presidency in the House. So
All right. Well, I think that's our last question and comments. Well, thank you, Mr. Lincoln, for your time.
Thank you, Alex.
I'm glad you've been having a nice little slumber there.